Daring to Dream Again. It's a great place for our church to be. We're 6, 7 years old in this location. It's definitely up and coming, very healthy type of church. And Daring to Dream Again, overcoming barriers that hold us back. That's not just a corporate thing, that's an individual thing, because literally the church is an entity full of individuals, and if we can all get closer to the Lord, then the aggregate does better as we go. The first week we're going to be looking at letting go of a painful past and accepting a new God-given identity. We're going to look to a Bible figure by the name of Gideon. You may know that by the group who puts Bibles in hotels and hospitals and stuff called the Gideons. And so they take their name from this Bible character. You'll find this story in the book of Judges. And you're going to have to get a little orientation back in your mind of the Old Testament era of what the Old Testament looked like as far as Israel was concerned. What you have up here in front of you is the 12 tribes of Israel. After Israel came out of 400 years of bondage in Egypt, they wandered around on the desert for 40 years because of disobedience, came up and finally got to go in, not under Moses, but under Joshua. And they were told, clear out the land. Well, they didn't. And so you have the 12 tribes of Israel. Here they all are. And here they are on the map. Here's your Sea of Galilee, the muddy Jordan, the Dead Sea, Mediterranean Sea. So you get oriented to modern Israel and ancient Israel in the same place. It's a lot less big now because of the Golan Heights and the West Bank and all those other kind of things that they've carved them up. But the idea, it's about 50 miles across and about 200 miles long. It's not that big a strip of land, all things considered. You're going to see there is some expanse in the middle of it. You're going to get to see that today. But they carved it up into 12 tribes. Realize within that area you have folks that they didn't drive out living among them. Here are some of the ites. There's bunches of them. Canaanites, Hittites, the Philistines, the Phoenicians. By the way, the Phoenicians are over by the sea in Phoenicia here. That should be thrown in because you hear that a lot on late night television now. The Phoenicians may have made it to America along with Eric the Red from Norway and all that kind of stuff. The Phoenicians were the only ones of the Middle Eastern folks. In fact, they were the only ancients that really got the hang of going across oceans and across great expanses of water and losing sight of land and still coming out where they wanted to. They're one of the few that actually pulled that off. The Greeks couldn't do it. The Romans surely couldn't do it. They hugged the coast. They're like me. I like deep sea fishing as long as I can still see the shore somewhere. There's a hope I could dog paddle over there if I needed to. Okay, that's the idea. They could actually get out there where it was just 360-degree water and still come out where they wanted to. The Phoenicians could do that. So they had those guys. They had the Moabites, the Ammonites, Edomites, the Midianites, which we're going to talk a lot about today. The Midianites were down here in the south end and went way down to the Sinai Peninsula, but they're here. And then we're also going to have the Amalekites that aren't even listed in this particular picture. Now, the Old Testament gives you the idea of the Fertile Crescent. Here you have Babylon over in this area. You're going to have Israel here, Egypt down here. Civilization developed along those rivers. The Tigris, Euphrates river valleys had moved this way and around. Hardly anybody traveled the Arabian Desert. Still today, from space, it's empty as far as that goes. It's a giant sandbox. If you want to be dropped on Mars, just get dropped right about here somewhere, and you're just about the same. And so the idea was, that's why they call it a Fertile Crescent, because this is between the two rivers and would go like this. We're going to be looking at this land of Midian down here, and in here would be Israel. That's what you're going to be studying today, so try to get oriented to that direction. Now, when we get into the book of Judges, there's a cycle that goes on with almost every judge. The patriarchs have run their course. Okay? Those are Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, those guys. Now you're not quite to the kings yet. We're going to have Saul and David and Solomon and those guys. There's an in-between period of about 150, 200 years where Israel tried their dead level best to do really what was right in their own sight. In other words, they did good and did not so good. That was the idea. And the cycle was always the same with every one of what they call the judges. That is, that there was an area of peace, a time of peace. The people got so complacent that they forgot about God. They didn't hate God. They forgot about it. And when you start forgetting about God, there's other things that takes God's place. Little g gods and just busyness or whatever. But if you don't have God on the front burner, you forget about it. And that's what would happen. Israel would sin. They'd forget about God. They'd start picking up more and more foreign gods like Baal, especially because he was a fertility god. And the female version of Baal, which was called Astra. And they would have big things set up so they could do sacrifices to Baal, and then they would have an Ashtoreth pole, which would be like a carved out lady on a totem pole, sticking beside it. And so you were worshiping the male and female fertility gods of the Canaanites. And you think, well, how can you go from one true God to worshiping that? Well, when that told you when to plant, when to reap, in a land that you didn't know very much about, you get sucked into that. Okay? And so they would gravitate over that way. Well, then God would get fed up with them. And he would allow one of the ites, Canaanites, Hittites, all the mosquito bites, all the ites, okay? Get all the ites going, and they would make life miserable for the Israelis. Defeat them. Just whip them all over the place for years on end. Finally, they'd have a V8, and they go, we forgot about God. They would cry out to him and say, God, help us. He then would raise up a judge. Now this is just a temporary moment in history. Someone would get famous. You know some of them. Samson, Barak, Deborah, those guys, and girls, okay, would bubble up to the surface. They would rally those 12 tribes of Israel, defeat whatever enemy they were going to do, and then that judge would kind of melt off into history. And there would be peace. Then Israel would forget about God. And it would start all over again. It was a cycle. We're in the midst of one of those cycles. Then the children of Israel, dropping into Judges 6, the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. They forgot about God. Again. And he delivered them into the hands of Midian for 7 years. That's that southern group. Okay? The Midianites, clear down into the Sinai Peninsula. If you look at the bottom of the Sinai Peninsula, you've got bunny ears at the bottom. One is the Gulf of Suez and the Gulf of Aqaba. And then in between that is the Sinai Peninsula. Midian went clear down into there and then clear up to the bottom of the Dead Sea. The reason they had so much land is because they moved around. They were Bedouins. They were nomads. They didn't have a home place. Home place was a tent. So you're going to find that's how they stayed in the land for 7 years, because they came up and raided Israel and decided this is prettier than back home. We'll just stay. They liked living in the RV. That's just the way it was. We could do this. So that's exactly what happened. They stayed up there. And in the hands of Midian prevailed against Israel because of the Midianites, and the children of Israel made them for themselves dens in the caves and strongholds which were in the mountains. Head for the hills. Here comes the enemy, and they had Israel hiding out best that they could. Just barely hanging on by their fingertips. That's really where they were as a people. Now, and so whenever Israel sowed, they got their crops going and all that. The Midianites and also the Amalekites, both of them, the people of the east, would come up against them. I loved it. It was really cool. We'll let you plant, and we'll let you grow it. But just about the time you're going to harvest, we'll come and steal it. Dirty. It's like, yeah, grow those tomatoes. I love tomatoes. As soon as they get halfway red, we're there and you're gone. That's exactly what they did to them year after year. That's just where they were going with this. And so they would encamp against them and destroy the produce of the earth as far as Gaza, and leave no sustenance for Israel, neither sheep, nor donkey, or ox, either one. And they would come up from their livestock in their tents, and coming up as numerous as locusts. You got to realize, Midians were a bunch of them. They're going to have literally thousands and thousands. It's not just like a few of these guys. They're locusts. They're everywhere. The Amalekites were already in the land. They were already amongst them, so to speak. There are a ton of them. So together, it just looks like a sea of people out there versus this few ragtag group that has to go hide out in the caves, up in the hills, that kind of thing. And both, they came with their camels without number. That means there's tons and tons of them. And that they would enter the land and destroy it, eating their way as they go. That's why they said they looked like a lot like locusts. Now, if you look at it from NASA's point of view, from the International Space Station, this is the shot. This is the Dead Sea, Sea of Galilee, the muddy Jordan, the Mediterranean, so you get oriented. Midian is all this land way down as far as you can see this way. They're going to move up, not into the hill country, but the fertile. You can see it from space, it's green, versus the hill country, which is rocky and stuff. This is nastiness down here as far as the desert. This is the Arabian desert that I talked about earlier that no one ever goes through and still doesn't today. But they would come up, they would avoid the hills and go up the flat land of the Philistines, and we're going to be talking about an area up in here, the Jezreel Valley. You're going to see it up close and personal in just a minute. It is the breadbasket still today of Israel. And they would roll up there, the Midianites and the Amalekites, to steal their stuff. If you want to look at it from a topographical map, they're going to come up, they're going to settle right into here. It is a beautiful, lush valley. It is gorgeous. In fact, one of the most famous battles of human history will be fought there in times future. That's where Armageddon will take place. Okay? Right in this big valley right here. You'll get to see it in a second. There's what the Midians would have looked like. There's their Bedouin lifestyle. That's the home place, so to speak. And the home place is very versatile, okay? And it's very mobile. You can pick her up and go, and you're just happy as can be, Winnebago on the road. Here we go, okay? There's the Jezreel Valley. It is gorgeous. That's why Armageddon will be fought there. It is the world's best battlefield. You can sit and look at it from any direction. It's like a giant bowl. And you can look down and look across 20 miles like it's nothing, okay? It's a beautiful valley. You'll get to see it. It actually has airports and all that. This is Israel today. I told you there's some wide spots of Israel that you don't realize. It's still a breadbasket. It's beautiful. That's where they grow their fruit. The Joppa orange and all that kind of stuff is there. It's a gorgeous piece of dirt even to this day. In fact, I got you even with a little rainbow and everything so you get the idea of it. It is a pretty piece of land all the way around. Well, the Midianites thought it was a pretty piece of land too. And they'd let them grow their stuff till just about harvest, then come up, steal it all, and run them all off. You got the idea. Here it comes. And so Israel was greatly impoverished, I bet. And because of the Midianites, and the children of Israel cried out to the Lord. You see? It took 7 years for them to say, I could have had a VA. We forgot about God. The question is, for the 50-day adventure, what's it going to take for us to get to that point? I was reading a little article about, since this is African American History Month, with Rosa Parks, the one who wouldn't find a seat on the bus, got on and wouldn't go to the back of the bus and just sat down and started the civil rights movement. They always ask Miss Parks, why'd you do that? Everyone thought she was just tired from working so long. And this is her words. She says, people always say that I didn't want to give up my seat because I was tired. But that wasn't true. I wasn't physically tired, no more tired than working any usual work day. But I was not old either. Everyone has the image of me old then. I was 42. If there's anything I was tired of, I was tired of giving in. And the question is for us, how tired do we have to get to say, I'm not going to take life like I've been living it anymore? Some of us have to get pretty miserable. Israel took 7 years of starve, and more starve. Until they said, we're tired of giving in. We forgot God in the midst of all this. We're going to turn to Him. So they cry out to the Lord, supplication. They're going to pray. And it came to pass when the children of Israel cried out to the Lord because of the Midianites, that the Lord sent a prophet. Now this isn't Gideon yet. This is just another prophet. He's not even named. He's going to be an unnamed preacher. He's going to turn their hearts back to the Scripture and also God Himself. Who said, thus says the Lord God of Israel, I brought you up out of the land of Egypt and brought you out of the house of bondage, and I've delivered you out of the hands of the Egyptians and out of the hands of all those who oppressed you, and drove them out before you and gave you their land. Okay? It was Israel's land, but they were gone for 400 years. So when you're gone 400 years, you can't expect to say, hey, we had dibs, No. This is our turn. We've been here for 300-some years. Too bad. It's ours. And so Israel didn't get them out of the land. They had to live among them. And they're saying, well, it's our land. No, it's our land. And you say, well, can that happen today? Look at Jerusalem. You've got about 3 different culture groups saying, that's mine. No, it's mine. No, it's mine. Okay? That's the whole idea of it. I drove them out before you into their land. I am the Lord your God. Do not fear the God of the Amorites, okay, in whose land you dwell. But you have not obeyed my voice. You have a painful past, 7 years worth. You have a history. Just like all those kind of things that you talked about or what you could regret, all that list of stuff that you could have regretted in times past that you've done and you're sorry for, or you didn't do and you're sorry for that too. The idea is that everybody has a painful past. Even young people have a painful past. They may have a past last week that they, I wish I hadn't said that to that teacher, ISS is no fun at all, okay? I wish that, I had taken that class and done better in it last year, since now I can't do that, and last year would have helped with this year, and I regret that, okay? I wish that I had gotten with that person in times past. I missed a real opportunity. I wish I had avoided that person in times past, and I have some regrets. Okay? There's a ton of them. And everybody has a painful past. If you're thinking, well, I've got a painful past, I'm weird. No. You're amongst us all. Everybody has a painful past. Just get it. Okay? Now, the drama begins. And the angel of the Lord came and sat under a terebinth tree. You want to see a terebinth tree? That's what they look like. Okay? They're real, if you're in West Texas, it'd be a mesquite bush, okay? Or a mesquite tree. Ooh, the Texans would slap. Okay? It's a mesquite tree. It's a bush, really. Don't tell them that, okay? It's like trees are like this. This is a little, it's a bush. No, it's a tree, mesquite tree. Okay? This is a terebinth tree. They sit out in the middle by themselves, literally out in the middle of a field. You'll find one. Oh, you can't see it. I'm sorry. There is a tree right there. It looks like it's 7 o'clock at night. So sorry. Well, that's kind of what it looks like. Oh, it's out there in the middle of absolute nowhere all by itself. That's the idea. So an angel of the Lord came and sat under a terebinth tree. That means the only shade that's around. Okay? And we went through the big names and all that. While his son, Gideon, now get this, is threshing wheat in a wine press. Now you can just blow through that. That is big with me. Because there's a huge difference between a threshing floor and a wine press. Okay? Huge difference. How you do it, what you do it, and especially who sees it. That's really the bottom line. Gideon was threshing wheat in a wine press in order to hide it from the Midianites. Now the whole purpose is wheat. Okay, this is what wheat looks like. It has big stalks sticking up. Then you're going to have seeds that are really tightly enclosed in chaff. Okay, that is what is the husk that's around the actual bead itself. This is what you're going to grind down to make bread and stuff like that. That's how wheat is processed. But the process means you've got to get that junk off the chaff, okay, or off the stalk, the shaft of it. And so the way you do it is you beat it to death, okay? You get your kids out there, just like you get mowing grass and anything else you get done around the house if you got free labor, okay? I can see all the boys and stuff going, yeah, I know that story, okay? Here we go. I was there too. Here we go. I went rabbit hunting and I was the jump dog. You know, get down in the brush, bounce the bunnies out. There you go. I was there. Here we go. All right. They're going to take these things and just beat the tar out of them. Boom, boom, boom. Till you get all that stuff off the shaft itself. And there you have it. But the trouble is, you've got a ton of chaff along with the good seeds. Now, how do you get that separated? That's the big problem. The ancients found out a way, and they call it threshing is where you knock the seeds off. Winnowing is where you're going to put the seeds in this basket like this. This is going to hold the seeds once they're apart from the chaff. But you're going to put them in a big basket, get up on the top of the hill where there's a lot of wind, and you throw it up in the air. The wind takes the chaff away and the seeds fall down because they're heavier. And so you just shake it, throw it up in the air just like a pizzeria. Okay? And you do that over successive times and you end up with a basket full of seeds, and then you put it in the other basket and you repeat over and over and over again. So that's what it looks like. This is an ancient threshing floor. You can see the Dead Sea in the distance here. This is in Israel today. This is the threshing floor. Where is it? The top of a hill. So that the wind coming over, the prevailing breeze, would let you throw this up. Wind blows the chaff away. You get the seeds. You get the idea. That's the idea. That's a threshing floor. Do you think the Midianites, the Amalekites, and every other ites could see you at the top of a hill going, free bread, here it is? Yes, they could. Gideon is scared to death. He's not going to be at the top of any hill somewhere throwing stuff up saying, come and get me. Okay? That's like a sniper wearing, hunter's orange and saying, here I am with lights on, No, he's not going to do that. They see you from a long way away, and they will come and take your stuff away. Maybe you too. Instead, he's threshing wheat in a wine press. This is what a wine press looks like from up. They have to almost shoot it from up here because you can't hardly take a picture. They're usually down in a ravine because the idea, squished grapes have the stuff drain downhill. So it's going to be in a gully. In fact, you're going to see this part right here real close. That's what it looks like. You can see it's a hillside way up here. The idea was you put all the grapes in, you step in it, you squish around or whatever. The grape juice runs out into a vat right here. Not made for wheat. Not made as a threshing floor at all. It's made for wine. But it's down in a ravine where nobody sees you. He's threshing wheat in a wine press. He's scared. You ever been in a restaurant, you feel like, I should make kind of a statement, like I actually pray for my dinner. But, you don't want to go, dear Lord, thank you, and have everybody turn around and look at you, so it's like, Lord, thank you, amen. Yeah, we hide too, okay? That's the idea. I'm not one to put myself way out there so I can be seen, so I'm a target. I want to keep it nice and quiet down in the ravine. And I'm threshing wheat, but it's in a wine press. You see where I'm going? Here it comes. The angel of the Lord appears to him. It says, the Lord is with you, you mighty man of valor, while you're hiding in a ravine. The Lord sees more about you and your potential than you see in you. Gideon is knowing, I'm in a wine press threshing wheat because I'm scared to death and I'd really like some bread tonight. And I'm here hunkered down. God says to him, oh, the Lord is with you, mighty man of valor. I love it. You're going to get a new identity. You're Mr. Scaredy Pants. I'm going to turn you into Mr. America. Okay? Or Mr. Israel. Okay? Okay? I don't know what had started the but instead of an A or something. There we go. I'm going to turn you into something that you are, and you have no idea that you have that kind of potential. Most folks in their spiritual life don't think they have that much potential. They really don't. Deep down, you're harboring something in times past and say, God can really never use me because of that. Or God can never use me because I didn't do that. I never finished school, or I didn't do the right things in school. Or I married that person, or I didn't marry that person, or I married that person, got divorced, and then it goes on and on and on. On times past, that affects and is a barrier to what God can do for you today. Here's a guy who's hunkered down, doing something he shouldn't have to be doing in a little wine press down here, scared to death, and God says, no, no, the Lord is with you, mighty man of valor. See something bigger. And Gideon said to him, it's a common question, I love it. I love this. Oh my Lord. He says it twice. And it's so exasperating. Oh my Lord. If the Lord is with us, then why has all this happened to us? Have you not ever asked that? Oh, I should ask how many times a day you ask. Okay? This is the most common question of every Christian. God, I try to serve you best I can. How come all this calamity is happening in my life? If we're your people, Israel, okay, why is this happening? And where are all those miracles that he said that our fathers talked about? And the Lord didn't bring us out of Egypt, surely, But now the Lord has forsaken us and delivered us into the hand of the Midianites. We know the reason because we're looking back on this and saying, you forgot about it, you stupid. Okay? Get a clue. He's not seeing that. He's seeing today threshing wheat in a wine press trying to survive. And in the midst of that activity, he's thinking, where's God? The same way that you thresh your way through school, work, the tediousness of relationships and all that kind of stuff, and in the midst of that, God, you've made these lofty promises. Where are you on all these promises? I committed myself to you in times past. Where are you now? And then the Lord turned to him and said, go in this might of yours, and you shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent you? Okay? Notice there's two little things on the commissioning here. Go in this might of yours. Not just mine, in your might. Gideon, it's going to take some of you in this. Don't wait for me to do it all for you. You've got to do some stuff. But I'm going to be with you while you do your stuff. That's very different to say, I'm going to sit here and wait till God opens the path for me, and as He opens those doors, I'm going to just walk through. Well, you might have to push the door open. He may have it unlocked and let you open it, but you have to open it as you go. You can't just sit there at home and say, God's going to drop it on me. He's saying, in your mind here, Gideon, I'm going to have you go out and do this kind of thing. You're going to have to get off the old identity of hiding out and a new identity that I'm a mighty man of God and I can do this thing. Go in this might of yours and you shall save Israel from the Midianites. For have I not sent you? I'll be with you. And he says, oh my Lord, again, I like, oh my Lord, how can I save Israel? Indeed, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, that's his tribe. And I am the least in my father's house. I'm the baby in my father's house. There's a barrier somewhere in times past. When God says, go get him, tiger. And you're going, yeah, but Tiger's got a leash, and Tiger can't get going because Tiger's got all this stuff in times past. And let me give you a litany of all these things that hold me back. Through my years of pastoring, it's almost humorous. You can't laugh. I don't laugh. But in the back of my mind, I'm going, if you could just see your potential. And with, why don't you do this or do that for the Lord? You've got this kind of, oh man, you got potential. Well, yeah, but, I was born where they didn't have a whole lot of churches, and, I had this awful experience when I was 14 years old, and the pastor jumped on me and called me, heathen savage or whatever. And I go, you're 45, get over it. That man's probably dead long ago, Why is that messing you up now? Good night. All this comes up. And believe me, that stuff, that junk from times past messes people up today. In this 50-day spiritual adventure, if we do nothing else in 50 days, if we can put whatever that junk is to rest for once in our lives and pick up a new identity and go forward, we've already won. We're at Easter. That's a huge thing. Get over it. Leave it back there because you can't do a thing about it. In fact, I have a cute little thing I saw this week. I looked back and tried to find my archives and stuff with Charlie Brown. Linus says to Charlie Brown, they're looking sad at each other. He says, I guess it's wrong to always worry about tomorrow. I love Charlie Brown because he's so mean. He says, no, that's giving up. I'm hoping that my yesterday will get better. That's so true. Get over yesterday. Get a new identity. You're going to go forward. The Lord said to him, surely I will be with you, and you shall defeat the Midians as one man. And he does. Whittles a whole bunch of troops, of thousands of troops, down to 300. And goes and surrounds a group that is a massive army with nothing but trumpets and torches.